Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. They called it a primitive toy, until it wiped out their entire fleet. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concordat was a testament to the technological superiority of its member species. Holographic displays shimmered along curved walls that seemed to defy spatial limitations. Gravity manipulation fields allowed representatives of over 300 species to sit, float, or hang in perfect comfort, regardless of their evolutionary origin. Energy fields isolated atmospheric conditions for species that breathed everything from oxygen to methane to liquid helium. Dr. Alina Kovk, Earth's first ambassador to the Concordat, felt distinctly out of place. Humanity was the newest addition to this ancient alliance, and by far the least advanced. Where other species had mastered antimatter drives, consciousness transferal, and dimensional phasing, humans had barely figured out efficient fusion power and rudimentary interstellar travel. The Grand Arbiter, a towering avian being with a crest of iridescent feathers that shifted color with its emotions, addressed the assembly. Its current deep purple hue indicated grave concern. The Void Heralds have breached the Sarin defensive line. 3 systems have already fallen, it announced through its translator, converting the harmonics of its voice into standard galactic common. Their expansion trajectory put 17 populated worlds at risk within the next solar rotation. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Void Heralds had appeared 6 months ago from the depths of uncharted space, massive ships of unknown composition that communicated only through destruction, harvesting resources and leaving dead worlds in their wake. Our most advanced energy barriers cannot withstand their weapons for more than minutes, stated Xanthal, the representative of the Myriad Collective, widely regarded as the most technologically advanced species in the Concordat. They have some means of destabilizing phase-locked energy matrices that we cannot yet counter. Dr. Kovk listened intently. The Concordats conquered had dismissed Earth as a quaint backwater, barely worth diplomatic recognition. Humans were viewed as primitives who had somehow stumbled onto the galactic stage before they were ready. Earth has been granted observer status more out of curiosity than respect, another representative, a gelatinous being whose translucent body pulsed with neural activity, reported. The combined fleets of the 7th Quadrant were decimated at Proxys 9. Our guidance systems cannot track their ships, and our energy weapons dissipate before reaching their hulls. There seems to be some kind of advanced field manipulation at work. The Grand Arbiter's feathers darkened to nearly black. We face an existential threat to all sentient life in this sector. All options must be considered. Dr. Kovk raised her hand, a curiously human gesture in a chamber where most communication happened via neural interface or chemical signals. The Grand Arbiter, evidently surprised, acknowledged her, its feathers shifting to a curious yellow-green. The human observer wishes to address the council, it announced, with what sounded remarkably like amusement. While we appreciate Earth's solidarity, this is a matter requiring technological solutions beyond your world's current capabilities. Alina stood firmly under the subtle pressure of 300 alien gazes. Grand Arbiter, I believe Earth may offer a solution you haven't considered. A ripple of what could only be described as alien chuckling spread through the chamber. Your species has only recently achieved controlled fusion, said Sandval, neural filaments pulsing with dismissive colors. What could you possibly contribute against an enemy that neutralizes our most advanced quantum-entangled weaponry? Alina activated her personal holographic display. You've all focused on increasingly sophisticated energy weapons and defenses. The Void Heralds clearly anticipated this technological path and developed countermeasures. She paused, projecting an image of a simple metal cylinder. But sometimes the oldest solutions are the most effective, a metal rod. The Grand Arbiter's feathers shifted to confused blue-green. Yes, it prompted. We call it a kinetic energy weapon, no energy signature to detect, no complex targeting systems to disrupt, just mass and velocity. Pure Newtonian physics. The chamber erupted in dismissive reactions, flicks, hisses, electromagnetic pulses, and chemical releases that Elena's translator couldn't fully process. The Grand Arbiter raised its wings for silence. Ambassador Kovk, you suggest throwing metal at an enemy that has rendered our photonic accelerators and quantum disruptors useless? This is primitive. Elena smiled. Precisely, that's why it might work. The Void Heralds have evolved defenses against energy weapons, but what about something as basic as a tungsten rod accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed? No energy signature to detect or counter, just mass and velocity. Xanthal's filaments oscillated rapidly. The energy requirements to accelerate such objects would be substantial. Yes, Elena interrupted, but not beyond our capabilities. Earth's defense forces have maintained what we call a kinetic strike platform, simple in concept but devastating in execution. She displayed calculations on her holographic projector. A tungsten rod massing 100 kilograms, accelerated to just 1% of light speed, would impact with energy equivalent to 57.2 kilotons of TNT, comparable to a small nuclear weapon. No radiation, no complex targeting systems to disrupt, just basic physics. The chamber grew silent as the various species processed the implications. The Grand Arbiter's feathers shifted to a thoughtful azure. Your species has weaponized simple physics, it observed. Our civilizations abandoned such approaches millennia ago in favor of more elegant solutions. Sometimes elegance is the problem. Exactly, Elena replied. The Void Heralds expected your elegant weapons. They won't expect rocks thrown very, very fast. For the first time, a ripple of respect passed through the chamber. The Grand Arbiter's feathers shimmered with decision-making gold. The human proposal has merit. It is unconventional, but our conventional approaches have failed. How quickly can Earth deploy these weapons? Elena's expression turned grim. That's the problem, our kinetic platforms are in our home system, designed for planetary defense. We would need help from the Concordat to transport them to the conflict zone and integrate them with your targeting systems. Xanthal floated forward. You would trust us with knowledge of your only effective defensive technology? Elena met the alien's gaze steadily. The Void Heralds threaten us all. Earth may be primitive by your standards, but we understand existential threats. We're offering our best chance at stopping them. After a moment of consideration, the Grand Arbiter's feathers shifted to a decisive crimson. The Council accepts Earth's offer. A task force will be dispatched immediately to transport these kinetic weapons to the front line. Ambassador Kovk, you will coordinate with Fleet Commander Zerthal. As the council session ended, Elena found herself surrounded by representatives who had previously ignored her existence. Their questions came rapidly, revealing a galaxy-spanning civilization that had forgotten the fundamental power of simple physics. How did your species think of such a solution? Asked a crystalline being whose sentience resided in lattice vibrations. Elena smiled. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Earth spent millennia perfecting the art of hitting things very hard. Sometimes the simplest approach is the most effective. As she left the chamber, Elena couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity might be the new kids on the galactic block, but they had brought with them ancient wisdom that the stars had forgotten. Never underestimate a piece of metal moving at high speed. Newton's vengeance. Fleet Commander Zerthal of the Concordat Defense Force was not impressed. The enormous, vaguely reptilian creature with iridescent scales and 6 manipulator limbs loomed over Dr. Elena Kovk as they observed the loading of Earth's kinetic strike platforms onto a Concordat transport ship. These are primitive, Zerthal stated bluntly through its neural translator. No guidance systems, no phase shift capabilities, no quantum entanglement, just projectiles. Elena nodded, watching as massive electromagnetic accelerators were carefully secured in the cavernous hold of the vessel. That's the point, Commander. The Void Heralds can detect and neutralize your advanced systems. These have no systems to neutralize, just mass and velocity. The tungsten rods themselves are almost disappointingly simple, solid metal cylinders measuring 2 meters in length and 30 centimeters in diameter. No propulsion, no guidance chips, no energy signatures, just carefully machined pieces of one of the densest metals humanity had access to. Your species wields physics like a blunt instrument. Zerthel's multiple eye ridges furrowed. It seems inelegant. There's a certain elegance in simplicity, Elena replied. Sir Isaac Newton figured out the basics over 7 centuries ago: force equals mass times acceleration. The rest is just engineering. The loading completed more quickly than expected. Within 12 hours, the combined Earth-Concordat task force was underway, hurtling through hyperspace toward the front lines of the conflict with the Void Heralds. During the journey, Elena found herself explaining basic kinetic physics to some of the most brilliant scientific minds in the galaxy. The Concordat species had pursued energy manipulation and quantum engineering for so long that they'd forgotten the raw power of physical impact. The key is acceleration, she explained to a group of Concordat engineers. Your drives can achieve velocities we can only dream of on Earth. If you can accelerate our tungsten rods to even 5% of light speed, the impact energy becomes astronomical. A holographic display showed the calculations. A single rod, properly accelerated and aimed, could deliver the equivalent of multiple megatons of explosive force, all without a single gram of explosive material. But how will we target them? Asked Larith, the fleet's chief targeting specialist. Our systems cannot lock onto the Void Herald vessels, their hulls absorb or deflect all scanning beams. Elena smiled. That's where our partnership becomes valuable. We don't need to lock onto them with energy-based systems. Basic visual observation and trajectory calculation will suffice. Think of it as throwing a rock. You don't need the rock to be smart if the thrower is. As they approached the Proxima Centauri system, the next likely target of the Void Heralds, final preparations were made. The kinetic launch platforms were integrated with Concordat antimatter generators, providing far more acceleration potential than Earth's systems could generate alone. Contact, announced the sensor officer as they dropped out of hyperspace. Void Herald fleet detected at the system's edge, count 12 capital ships and approximately 30 support vessels. The main view screen showed the Herald ships, massive, irregular constructs that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Already, 3 Concordat defense platforms orbiting the system's inhabited world had gone silent, their energy weapons having proven useless against the invaders. Deploy kinetic platforms, ordered Zerthel. Ambassador Kovk took her place on the targeting deck, where a holographic battlefield hovered in 3 dimensions. Remember, we want to time this precisely. The Heralds won't expect physical projectiles, they'll be looking for energy signatures, not inert mass. The first salvo was ready within minutes, 20 tungsten rods loaded into electromagnetic accelerators, now powered by Concordat antimatter generators. Projectiles will reach approximately 4.7% of light speed, reported a technical officer. Impact energy calculated at 11.2 megatons per rod. Elena watched the holographic display as the first salvo launched. The rods themselves were invisible at this distance, no energy signature, no propulsion flare, just mass in motion, pure kinetic energy. For nearly 3 minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The Void Herald ships continued their advance toward the populated planet, seemingly unaware of the threat. Then, abruptly, one of their capital ships erupted in a spectacular explosion as a tungsten rod punched through its hull at nearly 5% of light speed. Direct hit, called out the targeting officer. Void Herald flagship has sustained catastrophic damage. The remaining rod struck in quick succession, 2 more capital ships were completely destroyed, while others suffered significant damage. On the holographic display, the previously organized Herald formation descended into chaos. They're attempting evasive maneuvers, observed Zerthel, but they still don't understand what's hitting them. They're scanning for energy signatures, not physical projectiles. The second salvo launched before the Heralds could regroup, 40 more tungsten rods, each targeted with increasing precision as the Concordat specialists grew more familiar with the kinetic approach. The results were devastating. Within 20 minutes, the once unstoppable Void Herald fleet was reduced to scattered remnants. Their advanced defenses, designed to counter the most sophisticated energy weapons in the galaxy, had proven completely ineffective against simple physics. As the remaining Herald ships fled the system, the command deck erupted in celebration. Species that communicated through light patterns flashed brilliantly, those that used chemical signals released euphoric compounds. Even the normally stoic Zerthal's scales shifted to vibrant patterns of victory. "Your primitive weapons have accomplished what our most advanced systems could not," the commander acknowledged, performing a formal bow toward Alina. "The Concordat owes Earth a debt of gratitude." In the aftermath of the battle, analysis of the destroyed Herald ships revealed the truth. Their hulls contained advanced energy-absorbing and deflecting technologies specifically designed to counter the Concordat's weapons, but they had no special defense against physical impact, a threat their designers had considered too primitive to worry about. 3 days later, Alina stood once again before the Grand Council of the Galactica Concordat. This time, there were no dismissive reactions or condescending comments about Earth's technological immaturity. "The Void Herald threat has been neutralized," she reported. "Their remaining ships have retreated beyond the galactic arm. Analysis suggests they're abandoning this sector entirely." The Grand Arbiter's feathers shimmered with formal acknowledgement, a deep gold indicating profound respect. "Humanity has saved countless lives with your unconventional approach. The Concordat formally recognizes Earth as a full member, with all associated privileges and responsibilities." Alina nodded in acceptance. "Earth is honored to join the Concordat as equals. We may not have your advanced technology, but we offer perspective. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the most effective." "Indeed," agreed Xanthal, whose dismissive attitude had completely vanished. "Your species has taught us a valuable lesson about technological over-reliance. We became so focused on advancing beyond physical limitations that we forgot the fundamental power of those limitations themselves." As the formal ceremony concluded, Alina was approached by numerous representatives seeking technological and military alliances with Earth. "Will Earth share more of its kinetic weapon designs?" asked the representative from Sigma Dracomus, a world that had nearly fallen to the Heralds before the kinetic strategy turned the tide. "Of course," Alina smiled. "Though you might find them disappointingly simple, most of our military history involves finding more efficient ways to throw things at problems." The representative's translator conveyed what might have been laughter. "Sometimes simplicity is the most advanced solution of all." As Alina prepared to return to Earth with news of their newfound status in the galactic community, she reflected on humanity's unique path. While other species had raced toward ever more complex technologies, humans had thoroughly explored the fundamentals, including the devastating potential of kinetic energy. A junior officer approached with a communication pad. "Ambassador, we've received a message from Fleet Commander Zerthal. The Concordat Defense Force is requesting Earth's assistance in developing a new class of hybrid vessels combining our kinetic weapons with their propulsion systems." Alina accepted the pad with a smile. "Tell the commander we'd be delighted to collaborate, and suggest a name for the new ship class, Newton's Vengeance." As her transport prepared to depart, Alina gazed out at the vast expanse of stars that represented the Galactica Concordat, now humanity's partners rather than distant observers. They had earned their place among the stars not through technological sophistication, but by remembering what others had forgotten. Never underestimate a piece of metal moving at high speed. In the weeks that followed the Grand Council's decision, Earth and Concordat engineers worked around the clock to integrate human kinetic strike platforms with Concordat hyperspace propulsion and antimatter power systems. Under the joint leadership of Fleet Commander Zerthal and Dr. Kovk, a design bureau was established aboard the transport ship Arbor Prime, itself retrofitted into a mobile shipyard. Human metallurgists collaborated with Concordat crystal engineers to develop an advanced tungsten alloy composite, denser, more fracture-resistant, and capable of withstanding the extreme g-forces of near-light-speed acceleration. Crew selection for the first Newton's Vengeance class vessel began immediately. Pilots were recruited from both Earth's Space Defense Command and Concordat flight academies. Navigators included Neuralink specialists from the Myriad Collective. Targeting officers came from the Crystalline Lattice Council, whose vibrational scanning techniques promised sub-millimeter precision. Dr. Kovk herself assumed the role of mission specialist and diplomatic liaison, ensuring that the new allies' divergent doctrines and protocols were seamlessly unified. The prototype vessel, Newton's Vengeance I, was christened in a ceremony orbiting Earth. As Arbor Prime's assembled task force held station nearby, Ambassador Kovk activated the ship's holographic display, detailing its armament, 20 electromagnetic accelerators arrayed along its dorsal spine, each capable of hurling 200 kg rods at up to 5% of light speed. The hull bore both Earth's fusion-resistant shielding and the Concordat's phase-lock emitters, a fusion of kinetic and energy defenses. When the Arbor Prime's chief engineer, an iridescent feathered representative of the Grand Arbiter, declared the vessel operationally elegant in its brutal simplicity, applause rippled through the assembled crew. On her maiden voyage, Newton's Vengeance I jumped into hyperspace alongside a Concordat frigate escort, bound for the Proxima Centauri system to retrieve residual kinetic platforms and conduct live-fire trials against abandoned Void Herald wreckage. As the wreckage fields, once cloaked by Herald stealth fields, drifted into sensor range, Captain Somas of Earth Space Defense Command gave the order, prepare 6 rods for kinetic drop. Within seconds, rods accelerated and released, arcing through space in near silence. 3 minutes later, each rod struck a deteriorating Herald hull at precisely calculated coordinates, punching clean through and embedding in asteroids beyond. Structural collapse followed, confirming the vessel's accuracy and lethality. Emboldened by the success, the task force proceeded to test intercept protocols. When a lone Herald scout, a small, dart-shaped ship, entered the system, targeting officers from 3 species synchronized their visual trackers. The scout attempted an evasive vector through a nebular cloud, but 6 tungsten rods, each guided by trajectory updates fed through a mixed-species control network, converged on it simultaneously. The vessel disintegrated in a silent, brilliant flare, no energy signature, no hull phase alarm, just the unforgiving impact of pure mass. News of these achievements rippled across the Concordat. By the time Newton's Vengeance I returned to Arbor Prime, requests for technology transfers and joint training exercises had arrived from over a dozen member species. Dr. Kovk and Fleet Commander Zerthal drafted a comprehensive doctrine of kinetic warfare, blending Newtonian principles with the most advanced hyperspatial engineering. The Concordat's archives, once filled exclusively with energy weapon theory, now housed entire volumes devoted to simple physics, forever altering the military philosophy of an interstellar alliance. Back on Earth, Ambassador Kovk addressed a joint session of the United Earth Congress and the newly established Concordat Liaison Council. She spoke of unity forged in crisis, of the triumph of fundamentals over hubris, and of humanity's place among the stars, not as the most advanced, but as the keepers of a lesson long forgotten, that sometimes, the simplest solution is the most powerful. As she concluded, the chamber rose in a standing ovation, Concordat delegates standing beside Earth senators in shared recognition that, together, they had wielded gravity's hammer, and reshaped the destiny of a galaxy. Several months later, the Concordat Earth Alliance had transitioned from emergency cooperation to a formalized defense partnership. Newton's Vengeance I was joined by 2 sister vessels, Newton's Vengeance 2 and 3, each incorporating incremental improvements, advanced guidance optics from the Lattice Council, crystal phase stabilizers for the accelerators, and a human-designed AI module to calculate intercept trajectories in real time. Crew rotations now included mixed-species teams, sharing tactics and traditions in equal measure. On Earth, the newly established Concordat Liaison Council met weekly in the refurbished halls of the United Earth Congress. Ambassador Alina Kovk presided over sessions where scientists and diplomats proposed joint research initiatives, terraforming technologies adapted from Concordat atmospheric regulators, medicine derived from the myriad collective's biophase techniques, and even cultural exchanges featuring music synthesized from crystalline lattice vibrations alongside human orchestral compositions. For Alina, these meetings were proof that collaboration could yield rewards far beyond the battlefield. Yet peace was not without its tensions. A small faction of Concordat traditionalists, uncomfortable with humanity's rising influence, attempted to petition the Grand Arbiter to restrict kinetic weapon proliferation. At the same time, radicals on Earth's fringe decried reliance on alien technology, fearing loss of sovereignty. When protests flared on both sides, Alina convened a joint symposium, threading together voices from every corner of the alliance to reaffirm their shared interests. Her message was simple: we are stronger when we learn from each other's strengths, and humble enough to admit each other's wisdom. Just as harmony seemed to settle, the deep space listening posts detected an anomaly beyond the galactic arm, an arc of subspace static in a sector untouched by the Void Heralds. Early analysis suggested an intelligence far older than any Concordat race, and not wholly mechanical nor wholly organic. Fleet Command designated a reconnaissance group led by Commander Somas aboard Newton's Vengeance 2, with Alina as diplomatic envoy. As she prepared to depart, Alina allowed herself a moment of reflection. The galaxy she'd entered as a cautious observer had been forever transformed, and now beckoned her toward new mysteries. Whatever lay beyond the arm, humanity's simple wisdom, and its Concordat allies, would face it together.